In this video we're going to show you a couple of the features of the new alpha release of the Amanzi Wireless Explorer. This application is based on Eclipse RCP and the UDIG GIS, and as such it has quite a few additional features beyond what we have focused on for our tools. But we're not going to spend much time on those. Let's start directly by loading mobile network data for southern Sweden, around the area where we have our office. As you can see, this sample data set has the sites named after the towns in southern Sweden. Now it's a bit hard to make sense of this without any context, so let's immediately load some mapping data. The data I will load has been downloaded from OpenStreetMap, and it's been downloaded in Esri shapefile format without any styling. So the first thing I'm going to do is restyle this data to look a little bit nicer. You can drag and drop any of the visual components in this application and rearrange the windows as you see fit. I'm not going to spend much time on that. Let's make the water blue. And natural areas should be green. I'll border it with brown. Let's make it a darker green, but make it translucent so it doesn't stand out too much. I like the administrative borders, which are the borders between the provinces, to have a thick line but be translucent. And coastline blue. And highways, there is a lot of detail here. So aside from changing the color, we're going to limit the scale to 1/10 of the current scale so that it's not visible when you zoomed out like this. Okay, enough of the mapping data. There are quite a few features in the UDIG GIS that we use that you can find out more about from their own home page. Let's look at the data that we loaded. It's available and visible in a tree view, as well as a map layers view, as well as a few other places you'll see soon enough. So this particular data set is quite small, and all of these sites are within one base station controller. You notice when I clicked on that base station controller, all of the sites glowed on the screen, so we can see where they are. If you had many base station controllers, this would be a useful feature. I can make several of them glow. If I double click on one, I get an interesting effect where the map zooms and pans to that particular one, which is in Helsingborg, the town where we have our office. At the same time, this view down here came forward, showing this connected graph view of the data in the database. This is a view directly onto the database. We have used a graph database, which turns out to be a very good choice for this kind of data, because the natural indexing and connections between the objects in the data maps directly onto the view that engineers typically have of their own data. So I want to show you a little bit about this to start with. Here we have the site that I centered on. These are 3 sectors underneath that site. The site is owned by a base station controller. Here are 2 other sites connected in a long chain of next links. This is used by the GIS view to draw the sites on the map. This particular chain of next happens to be how it was loaded from the original data source. If I show expanded nodes, you're going to see the properties in those objects. And you'll notice that sites are merely locations in this case. We don't have any properties other than that. but all of the other main data properties are attached to the antennas or the sectors or the cells. The actual names here come directly out of the file, so our network loader will load data structured exactly as it was from your original file. So if you had different data here or much more data, you will see that here. In fact, every antenna can have different properties here. It's a schema list database for semi-structured data, so that allows for an enormous amount of flexibility when it comes to loading files and makes it extremely easy to add new file formats. In addition, from within the database view as well as from here, you can edit properties. For example, I can change the antenna beam width. You'll notice on the map it became wider. Let's put it back and change instead the azimuth. That obviously is not a very common thing to have the azimuth looking like that on the map, but it was a good visual example. Let's put it back. We fixed that. To do further views on this map, let's zoom out a little bit so we can see more of the data. We could view it like this, or we can even go here, right click, zoom to layer, the everything. We have a view. One of the types of analysis we have is in this distribution view. If I choose that network, I'll get a list of the sector properties that we know are in a database. I'll do a consistency check by viewing azimuth. That has divided it up into this histogram or bar chart. If we click on any of these values, then you will see them displayed on the map.